Hey everybody, welcome to the Token Nerd Podcast, where we ramble on about geeky things ranging from Batman to pop figures to Star Wars. I'm Anthony Pettiford, and today we're going to have a special Old Man Logan review. Today we have Kearbey Robinson with us. Welcome, Kearbey.
Thanks for having me. Long-time listener, first-time podcast.
Yeah. I went and saw Logan on Friday night, as I believe you did too, or you saw on Saturday?
Saturday night.
Saturday night. It's been a weird weekend, honestly. I felt like today was Monday for the longest time. I've been really thrown off. So seeing Logan, this was the final, he says, the final Hugh Jackman portrayal of the iconic X-Men character. This is supposed to be set in the future, the dystopian future. So we've seen Days of Future Past, and that was an apocalyptic future with giant robot sentinels, and they were killing off all the mutants. And now we are in what we were led to believe was an apocalyptic world, but it's really not. It's just a future. He's not. The funny part is he's not in a dystopian world. He's just in Mexico.
Yeah, it's really just like a Trumpian future. I feel like it's what we had right there, where it's really depressing, but not necessarily apocalyptic.
Exactly. But in this movie, it's there was some event that happened that something killed off the X-Men. We know that at least. So I think it was I want to say it was 7 years ago. It's slipping my mind. It's either 7 years ago or a year ago, something happened in Westchester, which is the base area of the X-Men. And it said that there was about 60 people injured and 7 mutants were killed along those lines. And then people are believing that Charles Xavier is dead. And so at this point, no mutants have been born in the last 20 years, 14 years, something like that.
Yeah, they drop a pretty big number. And just to clarify, are we dropping spoilers on this?
Yes, this is a spoiler review.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, so Charles Xavier, as it turns out, has a dark past in the future now, because it sounds as though he's basically killed off of everyone that he cared about.
Yeah, and that's gonna get to we'll get to that point. Yeah. But now we have Logan, and this movie was supposed to be is slightly based off of the Old Man Logan comic. And Old Man Logan just basically follows Logan, who is now old, lives in a dystopian world where villains have taken over the world, and he is no longer healing. He has to team up with a blind Hawkeye and goes into the city and faces off against the Red Skull and the Hulk hillbilly gang and junk like that. And this is what we thought we were going to get, but we didn't. We got a weird Western road trip. I'm trying to think of it was a lot of things. Character study.
It was a very atypical superhero movie in every sense. I feel like almost the point where you can, outside of the fact that it has comic book characters and some powers in it, you could almost say that it wasn't really a comic book movie at all.
Mm-hmm. Is it funny that in this movie we had people escaping from Mexico through America to Canada? They didn't want to stay here.
I mean,
maybe it wasn't Trump future.
I feel like that's the future that we're having. I mean, you saw how well the border wall worked, though, with the limo scene.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to give Trump credit. Like, he built a pretty impressive wall. Like, that limo was not getting through it.
Yeah. So, I mean, he had to go up and say, "Hey, Jack." I mean, he definitely had to know the guy. So, I mean, there's a bit there. So good for him. And it only took, because that's 2024. So give or take.
I mean, it feels like it's probably ahead of schedule.
7 years. Yeah. But we're going to stay away from the politics. In this world, Logan is raising money because he and Xavier are going to get a boat, and they're going to sail off in the sunset because Charles Xavier, the most powerful telepath on the planet, now has not Alzheimer's, but dementia. And with that, they even consider him to be like almost a weapon of mass destruction when he has his seizures, because he can't control the outbursts of psychic power, psychic waves, that vibrations that he releases, and we see that throughout the movie. And Logan he gets the help of Calabath, who I'm trying, before we go on, I want to get who played him, because he was actually one of my highlights for the movie.
Oh yeah, he's a great British actor.
I thought he was the guy who played Vision in the Avengers movies, but that's not right. Um,
Now, if you look up single, uh,
it was Stephen Merchant.
yeah,
Yeah, he was in let's see. Anything that's
he's got an
Logan?
HBO show, I believe.
He's appeared in
Yeah,
The Big Bang Theory, Hello Ladies, Robot Chicken at one point.
yeah,
I
Hello,
don't
Lady,
see him.
big show. He's a quintessential British comedy actor, though.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here that would stand out. Um, yeah, nothing that he's been long term, but he played Calabath, which is like a seeker. That's his power. He can find other mutants, and he came off. I mean, like I said, one of my favorite characters. He's an albino, so at different points you see him wrapped up with a giant, not sombrero. What kind of hat is that? It's just a huge, oh, off the top of my head, I can't remember. There's a name for it, but it's a huge like sun hat. And his face is covered with glasses because the sun obviously, not just like an albino, but like it actually hurts him almost like a vampire would.
Yeah.
And so he's helping Logan take care of Xavier. And upon Logan working for this limo service, which is not even a limo service, he's more like a fancy Uber.
Yeah, it feels like it. I mean, it seems to be app driven. So he's basically a for hire by app
Mm-hmm.
driver, it seems, which I guess is the future of Uber.
Yeah.
Self-driving cars take over. Now you just have to be a human-driven limo, I guess.
Yeah. And so he does like not frat parties, but bachelor parties, uh, bachelorette parties. And the movie starts out with him like asleep because he's an alcoholic again,
Yes,
as we noticed. And
which
so,
is great to see.
yeah, and the first scene is actually him killing, I mean, butchering a bunch of guys who are trying to steal the tires off of his limo. Um, and it gets us our first taste that Logan is no longer healing the way he used to. It was almost sad to see. The first image of him is he's trying to use one of his bone claws, and only two of them really come out. And there's like the side one, the far side one is like barely coming out. That was rough to see.
You can definitely start to pick up. You've got the limp that you kind of see as he stumbles out. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of start to see like yes, he's breaking down. But I will say that opening scene, uh, I think was the starkest and quickest reminder that this is an R-rated
Yeah.
X-Men, which was, I mean, you kind of imagine the violence associated with Wolverine, going full Wolverine, if you will. But I think the way that they kind of showed that at the very beginning clued you in that this was going to be, at least in terms of violence, a very different movie than what we're used to seeing out of the X-Men
Oh
franchise.
yeah. This is the first time we've actually seen him gut somebody, actually take an arm off. And there was a lot of scenes. Like I remember the Red Band trailer. We see Wolverine stick his claws to a guy's face. You
Yeah,
saw a lot of that
which
really fast.
yeah, and I mean it's a very efficient way. I mean, if you're Wolverine to do it, so I'm surprised it took him this long. But I guess that R rating really just opens up his arsenal of moves, if you will, to take down his enemies.
Mm-hmm. And so, just to kind of keep this overview brief, they come across a woman who comes up with a girl, and the girl doesn't speak. She says that we need to get her across the border. We're going to a place in North Carolina or South Carolina,
North Dakota.
Dakota.
Yep.
Thank you. And so the woman gets killed because there are these wraiths or reavers. I forget what they're called. But they are basically, I think they're mercenaries that were hired to hunt down not only mutants but whatever this company, because this company, which isn't Exxon and it's not Roxxon and it's not I thought it was supposed to be Mr. Sinister's group, but didn't see Mr. Sinister in the movie.
it just seems to be an open-ended company that they maybe just created for the movie, to be honest.
Hmm. And so, since mutants aren't being born anymore, they've started to create their own mutants, like an army, using the DNA of different mutants. And come to find out that this girl is Logan's, and they're not clones. I got to make sure I don't say that wrong. I got torn apart for saying, "Oh, they were clones," because they're not. They're
Yeah,
actual.
can't actually make her female if she's a clone.
No, well, you could. You could. Technically, she's supposed to be a clone, but in this one, they it said that they found Mexican women and they impregnated them with the
Yes.
DNA of other mutants, not deadly mutants, but savage soldier-like mutants. And so this girl is X-23 from the comics. She's the one that has the 2 claws on both hands and then the 1 claw on her foot. So she comes in and immediately said Logan needs to take her. Logan and Xavier need to take her to, say, North Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah, take her to North Dakota, where she's going to meet up with the other children prisoners who escaped from this plant because the nurses there felt bad for them and tried to help them escape.
Yes.
And so this is what starts our buddy cop movie, or not buddy cop, our cross country kind of movie, our planes, trains, and automobiles kind of thing, where we're going across the country. And it gets darker than I was kind of thinking that we would get from this movie. I knew we were gonna get sad, but not this level of darkness.
And I must say, so not to go too deep into it, but it was one of the things that I love the most is how quickly this movie just took on this dark tone and held on to it, which yeah, right from the outset, I will say, like, I loved this movie, and that was one of the big pieces I think that really drove me to love it, was just how dark and I don't have the perfect word, but it was just a
Gritty.
very dark, introspective, like gritty movie. Not afraid to have a silent moment, which I love when a movie can hit that tone and still have great action with it.
Yeah. So you know what? Because I feel like we could go detail because a lot happened in this movie. A whole lot. I mean, from there being a comic book series to, let's be honest, we all knew there was going to be the death of several characters. One of which being Professor X. There were clones, actual clones. There were black farmers. There were I mean, trucks without drivers
that still can't drive, mind you. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they can. It's just the fact that in this world, they're not aware. So it's not like these smart cars. It's like it makes that noise.
Like, so if you get out of the way because I'm coming.
Yeah, you need to get out of the way because it's going to merge. Which I thought was kind of interesting because it's not one of those where it's self-aware. It just does what it needs to do. So a lot happened. And so I think it's fair for us just to move into pros and cons. So you can give me like 5 pros about this movie because you're going to have more than I did.
Okay. So the actress who played Laura.
I'm going to pull that up real quick. But go ahead.
Yeah, I cannot overstate how well I
Daphne Keane.
Yeah. So for her age, especially, and then the character she played, once again, I think an absolutely outstanding performance. In a lot of ways, I felt like she helped to anchor the movie almost more than Hugh Jackman did. And her fight scenes were, once again, also unbelievable. I don't know how you got
to they were all incredible.
I mean,
I don't know how I know a lot of it might have been CG, but whatever stunt actor they got, because there had to be a stunt actor for a lot of those scenes, because it couldn't have been her. I'm not saying she can't, but it was crazy.
Unbelievable. And like just her portrayal of just a rageful young child who doesn't really know herself yet and is trying to figure it out, just unbelievable. I've taken a saying that she is my wife's spirit animal, just because, like, because of the rage that she's capable of unleashing. I think is everything my wife would want. Uh,
Mm,
and if you had given my wife healing powers and claws as a 12-year-old, I'm pretty sure that's what she would.
that's who your wife would be.
That's what she would have been. So I can't overstate enough. I thought that was really great. I thought Hugh Jackman and Patrick
Patrick
Stewart
Stewart.
were both. I guess you would say like they're expected typically impressive selves, but even more so in this movie because it felt like a lot more of a character study than the typical X-Men movie that they've been acting in, and you could see hints of the deeper layers that they want to get to with Logan in general throughout, and a little bit with Xavier, but I don't think ever to this level
Yeah.
on this movie.
Well, we've never seen an Xavier that wasn't prim and proper and in control. Because
Yeah,
even in X-Men Last Stand, which we can all agree was the worst, well, second to the worst. X-Men or Wolverine Origins was the worst. But even in Last Stand, when Xavier bursts into dust after Phoenix kills him, he was still like, he turned and smiled. He was in control of it.
yeah.
I felt like.
Well, I mean,
he chose to die, I feel like.
Yeah, he probably could have fought it. It probably would have turned into something much worse, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'll agree with that point. But there is always been this air of invulnerability to him which is funny because it's a man who's crippled, but his mind is so great that you just like he's almost invulnerable, and yet in this he's obviously a very vulnerable character. So I loved all the performances. I thought those were great. The action sequences, and I know it has a lot probably to do with the R rating, just felt a lot more real, like what you would really expect out of two characters that can heal themselves, run around with adamantium claws, and are bred to basically just be violent warriors, like kind of I think what you would expect. And then the other thing was the send off. I thought they handled it really, really well. If this is in fact Hugh Jackman's last Wolverine, I thought the way that they let Wolverine die at the end, I thought was actually handled quite well. And then the very last piece of that is I like how they actually treated the audience like it was intelligent. So you weren't spoon fed all the information that you needed to understand what was happening. So it was like, why isn't Wolverine healing correctly? Why is he aging? And eventually you can piece together like the adamantium inside of him is killing him, but they don't just beat you over the head and have some scene where it shows like, oh, doctors have determined that the adamantium is eating away at his ability to heal. It's like, no, we're going to drop subtle clues and you're a smart enough audience, you're going to pick it up. And I felt like they did that with really almost all of it outside of the backstory for the little girl. Other than that, I think they really just let you piece together all the things that happened. Build the story on your own, just assuming that you're going to be smart enough to figure it out, which I always appreciate. I don't necessarily like being spoon-fed. So,
and I get what you're saying, because all the things you said you liked are kind of my cons. I hate when movies tease a better movie. Okay, I don't want to go into my cons yet. I agree with pros. I think the end of the movie, the very last scene, instead of like I said, everyone who's listening to this has to have, you had to have seen this movie at this point. Logan dies, and they leave a cross for him, like they do at any burial site. But as Laura's walking away, she takes it and turns on its side, and it's Nex. And that was a touching moment. But see, I'm going to one little con. I've been watching This Is Us. I cry every week, every Tuesday on the dot. My eyes are flooded with tears, and there just wasn't any of that for me in this movie. I tried to. I mean, the worst part for me was seeing Xavier, because I have a soft spot in my heart for Patrick Stewart. I mean, from Star Trek to American Dad, I mean, Patrick Stewart is my man, and so it was hard to see him in that position of just vulnerability. It was hard. especially because in person I see him as being this really strong individual who stands up for gay rights and not just gay rights, but all the entire sexual spectrum, but also because he's getting ready to get an American citizenship because he's going to fight Trump. Like that's what he plans to do, and it's like, leave the politics out of it. But to see him like that was hard, and that was a scene where that was hard for me. And to know that Logan stayed with him and hid and took the pain and took the punishment that he was giving him because he assumed Logan had done something. Because there's that point where it says, "What did you do? What did you do?" I did like that. Loved Caliban. I just want to throw that out there right now. I thought he was at first because he's in Apocalypse.
Oh,
yes, he's in X-Men Apocalypse. He's the one who gives he gives Mystique that information. He's that underground dealer.
You're right. Mm-hmm. I'd completely forgotten about that.
And so I don't know, just the way he carried himself. I thought when I first saw him, I thought, oh, great. So it's like the character that no one really cares about. And he even says, like, because I thought it was interesting, Logan and Xavier were going to get a boat. But what was the boat called?
Yeah, the Sunseeker.
Sunseeker. And that's what Xavier was always looking for. Logan was always looking for a father figure. It was the Sunseeker. Not just the sun, but I feel like it was.
Yes,
there was a lot of that's what I took away from it, at least. But at one point, Caliban says, "You guys are going to sail from the sun. There's no place for me. I can't live below deck for the rest of my life." But I also don't think that Logan was going to leave him.
I mean, yes, he reacted really poorly to Caliban being missing.
And that was my favorite part. Well, not my favorite part, but I love the fact when it said, "Where's Caliban? Where's Caliban?" And they said, "He's in the ditch where you were going to leave me." And that's when the claws came out and he is going to shank the Reaver, which I liked him. I don't really like the villains.
Yeah.
I thought he was like he reminded me of Draco Malfoy for some reason, but I liked his because he brought the humor to the movie.
Yeah.
There was a scene where Laura comes at him and he goes, "Whoa, stop. Okay, guys, get her. Like backs up. And I was like, cool. He's funny.
He was just kind of a dickish bad guy with like no redemptive qualities whatsoever, and I kind of like that. Like, I don't want you to make me somewhat like the bad guy. I just want to hate him. Like, let's hate this guy, and he did a perfect job of it.
He did a great job. We even got the point where they caught Caliban. They kept him as a prisoner to hunt down Logan and Xavier and Laura. And they were using him, but he was like stalling. So he was making it so that they were at least one trip ahead of them. And near this one big fight scene, he grabs a belt with grenades on it and kills himself. But he's intact. If you notice in the end of the movie, like mid-movie, you see his body and it's still there.
Yeah, like which is pretty accurate portrayal of what a grenade's going to do. Like
okay.
A very ugly shrapnel, like a lot of pieces are going to be missing. There's a lot of damage, but yeah, mostly intact. I thought, which once again, this movie handled pretty well in general, like with what's actually going to happen to someone if you have claws driven through the wall or a grenade goes off in a car that you're in. But I did love that scene because it was once again, Caliban has kind of a dark past as he worked for this group to help them hunt mutants for a while. And it was that really nice redemptive story arc for him, essentially, when he throws those grenades. I mean, to include like the ridiculous one-liner of "stay out of the light" or whatever that they dropped in earlier. So you have the ridiculous one-liner, but you still have this redemptive arc for this character where he kind of takes his stand, which I thought was great.
Yeah, and it was a moment of his control. He chose what happened to him.
Yeah.
So I really like that. But so in that blast, it took out that Reaver, the Draco Malfoy Reaver that we were talking about, with the mechanical hand, which you see in the trailer. But he survives, though. I feel like he was a dick to a lot of people, and so they were like, "Well, who should punish him? Like, who should end this guy's life?" And they're like, "You know what? Let's just have everybody do it." Because at the end of the movie, he's sitting there, and the girl who can control grass is part of the group that suffocates him. And then there's the you've seen Hook.
Yes.
What's the tubby black kid's name?
Oh,
Oh, that's
yeah,
who the little electric kid was in this movie. That's what he made me think of. Oh man.
it was great. The
It
fact that
was really
the
good.
kids participated in taking him down. Um, and it's nice too because none of them is going to have the full emotional burden of killing him. They all get to,
But none of them have that at all. They were bred killers.
yeah. Um, so I thought that scene was nice. Though back to the scene earlier, I thought uh, the well, it will be one of my cons, but the farmer house scene where that fight scene took place uh,
Mhm.
has like maybe my biggest qualm with the movie, but also I thought was the uh, one of the biggest or best scenes, if you will, of the whole thing. The right before Professor Xavier died, the
Mhm.
speech he gives, and obviously they don't show Logan's face or anything really, but like a shadow of him, so you know something bad's coming. Like I felt like you knew something bad was coming, and it was just after like they have their family moment, which was
Yeah.
kind of beautiful, where you know Logan gets to be the son. Uh, you have Professor Xavier getting to be a father. You've got the daughter and the joking and banter at the dinner table, and then they go to sleep. And you have Patrick Stewart saying that it was the best night
Night
he's
he's had.
had. And it's just like it's kind of one of those beautiful moments where you realize, like, for the life that these people have, it's just going to always be fleeting. Where it's just
Mhm.
they'll have a glimpse at the life that they want, and just like that, it's gone. So I thought that was really beautifully handled, and also a great send off. If you so much better of a send off for Patrick or for Professor Xavier in this series than getting ripped apart by Phoenix. Like, we'll be honest,
I
he just went from having the worst death scene ever to at least going out like in what was precursor as a beautiful moment, and then something heart wrenching when it turns out to be Logan's clone that kills him.
yeah. I Okay, so I'm not gonna combat your pros with my cons.
I mean, you can. I
I
don't.
can. We'll get to cons. Don't worry. We'll get to cons and we'll get to the debate. I know because I know the debate's coming. Um,
Okay.
but I think in my cons or my pros, we mentioned the farm scene. So we talked about those trucks. So at one point they're driving on this country road, and these automatic trucks merge over, and they kind of like not take out a farmer and his truck, but that's pulling a trailer full of horses. But like the farmer swerves off the road, and the horses get away, and Xavier uses his mind control to like calm the horses down, and they catch them, and the family invites Logan and the gang over to their house for dinner. And it's like you said, beautiful moment. It's a black farmer family with the son, the wife, and the husband. Uh, they offer that they can stay there for the night after this beautiful meal and this laughter and happiness. Their water pressure goes out,
Yeah.
and so Logan and the dad go out um, to fix it, and they get confronted by like this generic, Doug Digadome kind of person who, you know,
Cl-
I,
Clearly, just a classic Southern racist. Like,
yeah.
let's not split hairs. Like, yeah.
And I wouldn't even throw out like I normally would throw the racist part out, but I think it's just a douchebag, just
I mean, yeah,
classic dick, classic rich dick.
yeah.
Um, and so Logan, you know, uh, breaks like stands up to him, gets shot in the shoulder, or something like that. I forget what happens. No, he gets
So yeah, so he points the gun at him, and then cocks it, and Logan's like, "I've heard that sound several times," and then does the classic, grab the gun, break the guy's nose with the gun, and then breaks the gun over his knee and tells him to leave.
right.
Yeah,
But the one thing I liked about that was one that the guys came back because you don't just do that in the world. In any situation, you stand up to someone and you are the hero, but those bad guys are going to go get a ton of friends and they're going to come, you know, if Logan and them had left the next day, that family's dead. So
wait,
they were going to come and,
that was my biggest qualm with that whole scene. It's like, you know what you've just done.
yeah,
Like,
you made their lives worse.
yeah, they're not going to go away because you broke a dude's nose. They're
Mhm.
going to come back.
You've made it worse. Which made the next scene
Yeah,
a lot more enjoyable when you just see X-24, which is an actual full-grown clone of Wolverine gut them all.
Oh, rip them to pieces. It was so satisfying.
Which I was against X-24. I felt like it should have been Sabretooth. To end the story, to loop it all together, should have been Sabretooth. But I'll get to that during my cons.
Okay.
But no, there was the scene where Logan's fighting X-24, and it's a losing battle because this is a Logan that's this clone is at its prime of what Wolverine was, and Logan is obviously the old broken man who can barely keep up. And so they kind of they're fighting, and this is after Xavier's been killed in what I believe is not a heroic way to go. Okay. But the farmer, the father farmer, he gets in his truck and he rams X-24 into a plow, I think, or
or something. Farm equipment with spikes.
Yeah, and so he just gets out and unloads a shotgun on his face, and you're like, Jesus, which was cool. And then the farmer turns, cocks the gun, points it at Logan, and you think for a second, okay, there's gonna be a moment where he says, "Thank you, you at least saved us," because the farmer's family's dead. The clone of Wolverine killed the son first, and then killed the wife, unapologetically.
Yeah, really tough to watch. I felt like more difficult for me to watch than him killing Professor Xavier and cuffing Laura was like him killing the family. Like that was a tough one to swallow.
Yeah.
Like no good deed goes unpunished, I feel like, once again.
Yeah. But we have so there was that whole scene, but the farmer turns to Logan, cocks the gun, and then pulls the trigger, which that was something that I would read into a little bit more, which like normally you always have that, like I said before, the moment where you go, oh, look, you helped us. But no, this guy said, you brought this here. My family's gone because of you. You brought this chaos here, and pulls the trigger, but there's nothing there, and the guy falls over and dies. So I love that. I'm trying to think what the last scene I really liked. I think that was it. I think that's it for my pros. But let's go to cons.
Okay.
We got an hour. So, what were your cons?
So the inclusion of the comic. So Sil and I talked about this a little bit on the way home. So we obviously loved it, but both of us had some issues. The inclusion of the comic and the Wolverine doll at the end at the funeral was just a little much for me. I get what they were trying to say is I think they were trying to ground the movie in some kind of realism by saying, well, these are comics and all the stories of what I did were not, or were fabricated and blown up. But once again, like it crosses the worlds and I just don't like it at all. So having the comic book really bothered me. That was maybe one of my biggest cons, second only to killing off the farmer's family. Like I get moving along the narrative and everyone that they touch kind of dies. But yeah, you had to kill the farmer's family.
Yeah, because it proved that everyone was right. Like mutants brought nothing but pain, and that kind of bothered me. That was the Xavier wanted to prove that wasn't the case, and this movie proved that it was the case.
Yeah, like let them destroy the house, but like in the overall, like the family wins because they killed off the hillbillies that were hunting them, and the family survives, and like that's that. And like Logan apologizes for ruining your house and gives them like the 10 grand, and then they leave. Like that would have been great.
Oh, that would have been perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it solves everyone's problems instead. And I get like the dark tone of the movie is just kill everyone. And I'm usually for that. Like I love that they killed off everyone in Rogue One. This is one of those times where I'm like, just let the family live. So I really struggled with that one. But I think those were my major cons with the movie, just in general. Honestly, and I'm sure I'm about to hear some heavy disagreement, was that other than that, I really actually loved almost everything about this movie, and I would have changed very little. So now I open the floor to you to tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm wrong, Anthony.
Okay, hold on one second. Oh, there's no point. I was going to pull out a notebook, but no one's going to see this anyway. It's all audio. Um, One, I hate when movies tell you like I said before, they tease a better movie. Um, and I know you said that you like the fact that they treat the audience like they're smart. I do too. I like when, a movie says, hey, I know my audience is smart enough to piece it together. Adamantium, I was hoping by the end we'd find out that there was something in him, something that wasn't getting healed out that was causing the cancer. And so that last scene wouldn't have been an injection. It was someone removed it. Something removed a piece of metal or something that was enlarged in him that was causing him to have the cancer. Because that was the thing. It was cancer that I was feeling he had, that was slowing down his healing. But actually, I want to go back real quick to a pro. I like the fact that he had the adamantium bullet.
Yeah.
And he was saving it for suicide. I don't know why I thought that was cool, but it was like he kept it in his pocket for that moment that Xavier died. Like,
Yeah.
I know that was the moment that he was done. But
So to be fair, based on canon, all it's going to do is he's going to shoot himself with that. It would eventually work its way out of him, and then he would just forget everything.
Well, the adamantium bullet is supposed to, somehow it's supposed to just like bust the skull. Really, once his head's, I thought it was once his head's removed, it should have killed him. But
yeah, head removal.
That's here there.
Yeah, I think I thought we had established it was just head removal was the only way to end him.
Yeah,
but once that goes back to X-Men Origins Wolverine, which I guess
I'm not going to speak of that. That's what we got rid of with the whole Days of Future Past. Which someone told me, I think I read it somewhere, that Hugh Jackman said that this was an alternate reality to the reality that we have just reconfigured. But whatever, we're going to ignore that for a second. One, I wanted to know who died. So is this the groundbreaking thing? Was it a bunch of kid mutants that died? Or was it like, hey, we're in the mansion and Jean, Cyclops, like how did they die? It had to have been from Xavier because it couldn't have been from anyone else.
Yeah.
How did Magneto die? He had to have been in the present or at that time. Like what was the big trauma? That would have added that depth for me. That would have hurt me more about Xavier, is to know who he killed. The fact that he killed mutants was sad and he hurt other people, but if it was the core family, that would have affected me more.
So would you have liked to see like an opening scene where it's
no, I would have liked to see an open scene. I would have liked, I hate to say it, I would have liked a flashback, or at least them to say Jean's death, Scott's death, Hank's death weren't on you.
Yeah.
Magnus's death was not on you, or Eric, whatever you want to call him. And so, but I didn't get that, and so I don't know. I felt detached from it. I felt like I was more, like I said, I was like, oh, there's so much more they could have told me, and they're not going to. I also didn't like Logan. I know this is supposed to be of what he became, and so granted, I did the math before. So he was born in 1846. He was born in the 1800s, so before Civil War,
pre-Civil War, yes.
And he lived. Yes, and so he lived until I think X-Men or Days of Future Past. The future scene was in 2023, I want to say. So he lived that lifetime, then mentally went back in time to the 70s. Yeah, 70s.
Yep.
Relived from the 70s now to 2024. Because I think, it's 2023.
Yep.
And then 2024 which is interesting that it's a year after Days of Future Past was supposed to be. But so mentally, he's like 250 almost, or something around that number.
He's not a young man.
Yeah. And so mentally, he's got to be screwed up. But I just don't see him becoming that character. Hold on one second. Can you turn that down just a little bit? Turn your volume down.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, it's okay. It's echoing. But no, there was the issue of him just, I don't know, not caring. And I know he's supposed to be scarred and he's damaged. He doesn't want to attach himself, but Wolverine was never that person. And I know that's comic books versus who Hugh Jackman's character was, but we've seen Hugh Jackman's character being in X2. X2 and this Wolverine are completely different. The guy in Days of Future Past is completely different than this mutant. I know it's supposed to be a progression of what he's experienced and the loss he's had, but I don't see him as being this like I don't care. He's always been the protector.
Yeah, I view it a little differently. Like you look at him, and it's just a life relived uh, of exponential loss. Like everyone he's ever loved has been killed, and we're assuming probably pretty accurately that Gene said that all the last few people that he cared about, uh, Charles killed, and so that's it. He's got Charles Xavier as the last human that he cares about on the planet. And so everything he does, and in a lot of ways, I felt like with this movie, everything he does is just about protecting that one last person that he has in his life, and that's Charles. And so he's just resistant to bring anything that could potentially upset that. And you kind of see it in the scene where he goes back after having been broken down a little bit and considered taking on like this mission to move this girl. And you just see the panic as he realizes, people are coming. And his only concern is to get Charles out of there because
Yeah.
the last person he cares about. And you watch as this girl, and I think that's the kind of beauty of this movie is like she just slowly breaks him down, and he just accepts the fact that he cares.
Yeah.
Not care.
But to granted, like it came together when he saw the kids and the drones, and the first thing he did was run after them. That's the Logan I know.
Yeah.
But like I said, I felt like the clone should have been Sabretooth because that story should have been brought to a close. I thought that would have been very poetic if they had manipulated Sabretooth to being that killing machine.
There would be
and so he Logan had to kill, or they had to kill that Sabretooth to put him out of his misery because he didn't want to be controlled. I think that would have been a nice close to that story for the two of them. And I also I hated the way that Xavier died. I felt like he should have died in his sleep. That's just me personally. Out of the air. You can't debate me. Will never change my mind.
Fair enough.
Logan's death, I thought was dumb. I mean, dude has been stabbed in the chest with forks and spoons and fire bolts and evil psychic waves. But you know what kills him? A tree root. That's what's gonna get him. Herbology.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was beautiful that what killed him was himself in a lot of ways. I did have some qualms with how they killed X-24 because once again, like the adamantium bullet, yeah, it rips through his skull, it blows that side of his brain off, and then it just regrows in my mind. Like it's all going to just grow right back, and he's going to be fine. So like I would have preferred. I like the bullet idea. I would preferred like she hits him with the bullet and then she cuts his head off, and then we're like, okay, yeah, it's over.
Well, the way I looked at it with Wolverine is he's supposed to be, so like his skull is supposed to be coated with adamantium.
Yeah.
So it's the fact that the bullet pierced his brain.
Okay. Well,
normally it's not supposed to, because I thought about that too. Like even like Wolverine should never actually lose a body part unless he's cut with adamantium, because it should go to the bone, but that's it. It should never pierce the bone.
Yeah.
So that's something that I was like, okay, I get. So it's the fact that his brain was destroyed is why he died. Then technically you kill Wolverine by sticking a coat hanger up his nose. That really should do the trick.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, but once again, I guess we're debating the science of made up science. That's a tough one.
Go ahead.
But I thought it was a very emotional scene. Like I was crying. The little conversation that he has with the girl there, I think is touching. And it tugged at my heartstrings. And maybe it's just because I'm older and more broken than you are. Maybe I relate to him better.
I would say that I'd say we're both equally broken. Come on, man. Let's be honest.
But yeah, maybe it's the extra 6 years I have on you that broke me just a touch more. So, or I wouldn't say broke me. It's just that extra experience just makes me a little bit softer on the inside and more amenable to mush like that. But I thought it was I thought it was touching.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was touching. I just didn't think it was deserved.
Okay.
That's just, I don't know. That's just me. I'm trying to think what else was an issue for me. Here's one. Last con, because I could pick this movie apart. Um, I didn't like the comics because he says the comics technically half of it happened, the rest of it, he wasn't sure about. Like not sure about, but like half of it happened, the rest of it was made up.
Yeah.
And so I looked at, so he said that so at one point I believe he says we went there, it wasn't like this. So he technically went to Eden, wherever this Eden was supposed to be. That was supposed to have happened, but just not like the comic book said.
Yeah, I found that a little confusing. And once again, as I said, I hated the inclusion of the comics, just period.
I thought it was interesting that it was like, oh, this became myth. Like that's how, that's what the X-Men were. The X-Men were like a myth, a legend, and that's why X-Men and the rest of the Marvel universe should never mix. As
Yeah.
cool as we think it would be, it should never mix. There's too much going on. But I don't know. And then they brought in the big scientist at the end, and he was like, oh yeah, this is the guy. I think he said, I'm the son. Either
Yeah.
he's the son of Stryker.
I
He said, I'm the son of the man who did this to you.
Yeah, the son of the man who did this to you.
So that means he was Stryker's son, but we saw Stryker's son in X2, and he was in a chair, and he's a telepath.
Oh yeah, continuity I think just doesn't matter with these films at all, and it's the most.
Yeah.
I think it's so within the Marvel creator universe. I think that's always been my biggest qualm with how they've treated the X-Men, because unlike the like actual MCU franchised films, which have a very like tight continuity, everything fits with everything else. Just the fact that X-Men's like, we're going back in time, and this upset the timeline, and so we just decided that we're going to go with this, and this really happened, but this happened in an alternate timeline, and basically what we're saying is nothing makes sense, and we have no explanation for it.
Yeah.
Drives me completely insane. I can't handle it. I like the continuity to work. Like I don't know. Everyone was always like, "Oh, I love the the Christopher Nolan Batmans," and I didn't, because you can't just change actresses in the middle of the films. Like, where did Katie Holmes go?
I agree. No, I agree.
Become Maggie Gyllenhaal, like it just didn't happen. It's an aggressive plastic surgery that I don't
replace a beauty with a secretary.
I mean, your words, but
yeah. I just don't listen to this. But no, I guess ultimately I don't know. I was expecting a lot more. I thought the first trailer when it played Johnny Cash singing "Hurt" I was expecting something a little bit more. I did lie. There was one scene that almost brought a tear to my eye, and that was when they buried Charles. And they had a chance of making it very touching, and they almost had it. It's like there's water, and he says, and they both were buried next to water. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
In the woods. But he said, there's water. You wanted water, and he breaks down, but then he goes off and throws a temper tantrum and then passes out from exhaustion and pain. Also, did not care. I know it's an R-rated movie. Cussing and stuff like that doesn't bother me, but like it got to the point where I was like, okay, I get it. You can say the F word. I get it.
Yeah.
But after a while, I was like, it just, because at one point that was the dialogue. I mean, there was a good point where you'd hear the F word, and then like 15 minutes would go by of silence. And you're like, oh, wow, the dialogue really is just the swear word.
So it's funny for me, the thing that they bought with the R rating that really bothered me was not necessarily the use of the F word. As we both know, I talk like a sailor because I am a sailor. So like none of that even fazed me. And honestly, if you hadn't just brought it up, I probably would not have cognitively recognized that they used so much profanity. The thing that bothered me was like the unnecessary nudity. So the bachelorette party he's driving around, flashing him from the back. Like, completely unnecessary, completely non-plot driving, not really part of the story. And it's just like, okay, like, yeah, congratulations, you can show boobs. You have an R rating. Why?
Yeah, there's like I also believe like in movies, so sex scenes deserve their place. It's like you watch Game of Thrones. To it shows you the climate of this world and how women are viewed and what sex is, and sex is power, sex is an attack. But in this, it was, what can we do with our rating? Like, Deadpool didn't show boobs, so we're gonna show boobs.
Yeah.
Also, let's talk real quick about the Deadpool teaser at the very beginning. The best part.
So great. So I think I've told you this. Deadpool is my favorite comic book movie that's come out. I love how irreverent it is, and I just thought everything about that trailer was pretty much perfect. Him taking 15 minutes to change, well, exaggerated, taking a long time to change as this violence is committed. It just feels very Deadpool. It was a great lead-in, like a lighthearted, unexpected lead-in to the movie. Because I was under the impression that it was post-credits was going to be the teaser trailer for something. And so the fact that it showed up there with someone walking in a hoodie, you're just like, is this start to Logan? And yeah, I thought it was great.
I was expecting, so what I thought the ending of the movie was going to be is post-credit scene, like we saw, Logan was going to die, but there were no other kids. X-23 buried him, and she's sitting there crying, and a hand is placed on her shoulder, a mechanical hand, and it's Cable, and Cable takes her back in time. So Cable links not only the X-Men universe, but now we have a Wolverine. She is our new Wolverine.
Okay.
So in the timeline, she plays Wolverine. Hugh Jackman took the mantle. He is now Wolverine forever. We won't do that in movies for another 15 years. But now we have a girl who's X-23, and that's her role. And so we have a little female Wolverine, and we can actually grow with her. So she's, I think, 10 or something like that. Yeah. And she'll just play this ultra-violent character throughout the series with the other X-Men kids. But Cable will show that he exists in the timeline, and then he'll go on to Deadpool 2, and that's what ties it all together.
I mean, that sounds...
That's what should happen.
I really do hope that they continue running with her, because I think she's amazing. And I would love to see where this character kind of goes from here. I was actually expecting something similar to the post-credits for Superman, where if you recall, like he gets... so the new Batman versus Superman.
Oh, with the rocks. I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah, I have expected to sit through it.
I did expect it too.
See a post-credits where like the Rock shuffle and Logan's managed to heal himself because now he has the power of love to overcome and rises out. I'm so glad that they didn't do that because I think it would cheapen the movie pretty excessively. And
no, I agree.
So I'm glad that didn't happen. But that was actually what I was expecting, to be honest, just based on some of the similarities to that ending burial scene.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. So I'll put a stop to that alarm. All right. But no, there I agree. The so I had with Logan and the way that he was, I thought he was gonna bust out of the rocks and oh look, he's not dead and we can make, because he Ryan Reynolds has been begging him to come back for. That's been the big thing. And he keeps saying, no, I'm done. Because, I mean, literally the man's had to be in shape for 17 years. He's had to stay in the constant shape he's in.
Which is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. But, I'm okay with letting it go. Because, let's be honest, when he was first cast as Logan, I looked up some of the posts online, articles, but people were not happy with him. He was a no-name from Australia. He was a theater guy, so a thespian. Dancing, and
singing can't be taught.
Yeah, dancing like a fairy. We don't want that as our Logan. That's a quote. That's actually a quote that I read.
I
That's not my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Not my personal opinion. But no, people were saying that, and he was too good looking because Wolverine's not. Wolverine's an ugly mug, like, and he just happens to be a really good guy. That's his redeeming quality. And so I feel like I don't know. I feel like if we recast, we should go for not an ugly, but a more bulky, short, short dude.
Well, once again, I don't think at this point he should be recast.
Not for a while, but yeah.
Yeah, for a while. I think the one thing that saved him. So, Hugh Jackman is a good-looking, dancing, singing fairy, but he's also a really talented.
That's the Washington Post.
Says the Washington Post. But he's a very talented actor, and so I thought he brought some gravitas and some skill and some subtlety of the role that would not have otherwise been there. And there's no way that the franchise expands the way it does without him.
Yeah.
And also just the rare case where an actor loves portraying a character so much that he's willing to. This is his 9th time being Wolverine. And honestly, I feel like if he had started playing Wolverine 5 years earlier, like this would not even be close to the end. Like he would be pushing it basically to the limits of his body.
Yeah. Well, he also mentioned that he was kind of rude and obnoxious to people on the crew because he wanted this to be perfect. This was the send-off, and it had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the last question, or the second last question. So, like we said, he's been Wolverine several times. I think he's been in every single movie except for. No, he's been in every single movie.
He had the cameo in Apocalypse, so I think he covered all his bases.
So, out of Wolverine only, your favorite Wolverine movies or appearances? So you could throw the little if you want to. You're 3, going to 2, going to 1.
3 to 2 to 1.
Yeah.
All right. So, honestly, number 3 would be his cage fight. In the, I believe it was the original X-Men. So he has the cage fight, which I thought was like the perfect introduction to this character, and I absolutely loved. So that was my number 1. My number 2, actually, and I'm sure this is going to infuriate you, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway, was his backstory with Saber.
Don't say it. Just stop.
Stop.
I'm not talking about I'm not talking about clips. I'm talking about movies. I'm saying you could include the little bits in, so you could say like Days of Future Past. Do not say X-Men Origins.
I just like they're just.
Do not say X-Men Origins.
I just like the opening. I just like the opening. I don't like the movie. I like the opening. No, so I think honestly, like X1, I thought it would probably be number 2 because I thought it was actually really well done. Logan is my number 1, which I'm sure is going to break your heart. Number 3, I'm going to have to say it was. I know it was kind of a train wreck of a movie a little bit, but Days of Future Past. I like how he handled that movie so well, and I like the 70s vibe. So I think that's kind of how they fall out for me.
Yeah. My number 3 was Logan.
Okay.
Logan was easily my number 3. I guess I just didn't like it as much as most people did. I mean, people are talking about like they're like, oh yeah, nominee for best picture. I don't think so at all.
Well, that's a ring endorsement because the last comic book movie you said had no chance is an Oscar. Talking about the Oscar.
Oh, screw you! Screw you! Forget that. No.
They can put that on the cover of every DVD they sell.
Oh yeah, Oscar-nominated Suicide Squad or Oscar-winning Suicide Squad. No, so Logan was my number 3. My number 2, I think Days of Future Past would be my number 2. No, X2. X2 is my number 2. So, Logan, X2, and then my number one is the Wolverine.
Okay.
I love the Wolverine. No one else did, apparently. But to me, that was, that was for the Logan that we've grown with. And I'm angry that we went to Logan.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, or the fact that Yahiko, I think it was Yahiko was her name, but the girl samurai, she wasn't in the movie because they ended it with like she was traveling with him.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, what cool adventures are we going to have with her, or how are we going to include her in the series? But we got rid of one of the coolest female characters in this universe, and so I didn't really care for that. But I loved that movie, no matter how weird and they cut off his adamantium claws, but notice it was another movie where his healing was very slow.
Yeah. Well, so my brother-in-law loves the Wolverine as well, so we debated this a little bit. So you're not the only one. There are others. Not many, but there are others.
There are smart people in the world. I'm not assuming that everyone's dumb.
Oh, but, so hateful. I will give you credit, though, for X2. I thought for him specifically, I thought there was a lot of emotional gravitas to that where he has to essentially kill Jean as he's being ripped to pieces. I thought that was a pretty emotionally heavy moment. And that would be my clips. Like top 5 easily. But yeah. So I'll give you credit for those.
Okay. All right. And that brings us to the final point of the podcast. How do you rate this out of 10 tokens? 1 being worst movie you've ever seen. You'll never see it again. 10 being it making your top 10 list of all time.
Well, I would have to say it's a 9-10 border, so it's close.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I walked out of there in love with this movie. Sil and I are talking about going to see it again tonight because we both just everything about it worked for me. For them, like I said, I had so few cons with it. I thought the movie worked really well. I really loved it. Outside of Arrival, it's by far the best movie I think I've seen this year.
I also loved Arrival, so you just saved yourself from my point of view.
Oh, I mean that movie was amazing. Like we could have an entire podcast on that. I just read the short story this afternoon. So good. But I would say that it's way up there as far as movies I've seen recently. I don't know if I can put it in the top 10. It's hard to displace such classics as Top Gun and Independence Day, but it's pretty far up there. So 9, borderline 10.
So we'll say 9.5. That's fair.
It seems fair.
If you're there. For me, I'm dancing between 5.5 and 6. I think it's 6. It would never make my top 10. Out of superhero movies, no. One, I don't know. I just didn't care for it. I'm not going to get a lot of heat for it. And then I know next year if it gets an Oscar nom, something, I just know. I mean, it won't though. I know it won't, but
it will.
I
won't let you.
I don't know. There's something about everyone being so anti-comic book. So I get that everyone's like, oh, it's hard for a director to get a movie. So now it's like, oh, I will do I have a movie that's planned out. I can put one of your comic book characters into it and you'll fund it. But I'm going to take the comic book out of it. Look, too much comic book out of it. And I don't know. I just didn't like it. So I'll say a 6 because I didn't hate it. I liked it. I had fun. There were a lot of pros. So I would say 6. 6.5 for you because I love you deeply and I respect you. So 6.5. Yeah, so I'll walk away with 6.5. But with that kind of brings this podcast to an end. And I just want to thank you for calling in. This is our first call-in episode of the podcast where we're trying to, because you're all the way in the beautiful lands of
San Diego, California.
Yeah, we are literally in Ohio where it's still cold. Like my puppy needs to go outside and I'm not doing it because it's too cold for me.
Oh no, it's freezing here. It's like 68 and a little over.
I hate everything about you. You know that, right? It's 68 degrees. Yeah, right. It's 30 something outside, going down as the sun drops. But no. So thank you for listening to this podcast. And thanks, Kearbey, for being on here. As always, check out TenaciousToys.com. Tenacious Toys is our sponsor. Go on there, type in the promo code TOKEN10, and you'll get 10% off all your Funko needs. I've seen really cool Funkos. Batgirl. There's also some Sailor Moon anime. There are some really cool Dorbs on there as well. And Hikari has even been added to the list, and we'll actually have those for future giveaways. So check that out. You can check us out at token_nerd on Twitter and Instagram, and tokennerd00 on Facebook for likes and comments, and you'll be able to see all of our upcoming giveaways in the future. So, once again, for the third time, thank you, Kearbey, for being on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. As always, I'm Anthony, and you are. Sorry, our bit is I go, I'm Anthony, and you say your name, and then I do my little thing.
All right,
so we'll try one more time.
Rewind.
All right, gotcha. All right, as always, folks, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Kearbey.
Stay spicy, my friends.